Jenna vividly shares her career journey through college, internships, and jobs. In her experience, she shares how she addressed her mental health through consistently reflecting on her skills and accomplishments. She makes it a point to keep growing in her career through following her heart and acquiring new skills. Hi, Jenna.
Hi, Jamin.
Thank you so much for coming for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
I want to jump right into the interview and I want to ask you, can you please tell us your career journey?
Yes, I can. So I guess it dates back to when I started my college career at Rutgers, which was in 2015. Um, I don't know that I picked a major my freshman year. I think I was just on a gen ed track. But then I heard about the School of Information and Communication, and I heard about starting your major, I believe, like sophomore year. So that's when I had decided to apply to the school. And I got in and I was able to kind of start my journey and career in the communication field. I did not know at that time that marketing was even an option for me. I just knew I'm a people person, and I really was interested in Com 101 that I think every freshman takes. And that was a time in my life, I didn't even know if I would graduate from school. I didn't even think I would get past I think it was my junior year, my first semester. So that was a little bit of a setback, but in a way, it definitely opened up my eyes to what I'd like to achieve and what I'd like to do in my future. It's a big culture change. It's everything. So during my journey with mental health, I was able to kind of pep talk myself back into school, which was really great. And I was so thankful and grateful I did. Um, that really set me up to kind of just graduate. That was kind of my next milestone. I knew I wanted to get a job once I graduated, but I was in the right mindset to kind of finish school and get through my senior year, which is where I met Professor Beal. And he taught the principles of PR class. And that had also sparked my interest in PR at the time. So I was like, okay, I'm on this track. I think I'm going to do this. Everything he talks about at Taylor Communications really sparks my interest. But given my mental health battle, I was unable to finish. I think I did like 5 of the 6 PR classes. So I had to switch gears a little bit. And that's when I went for health and wellness. My specialization is in health and wellness. But everything kind of happens for a reason because my senior year, again, I had a class called Are You Sure? And that is a big thing on campus. It is a nonprofit group. They talk about the misperception of drinking in college. And that again really spoke to my mental health. I felt like I was juggling this social life and not putting my focuses where they were needed, which was school, and feeling really lost in my own kind of bubble. But being a part of Are You Sure was so cool because we got to run different activities and events, sober activities for the students. We got to educate other students on these misperceptions and just kind of be the face of this group. And that was a really cool thing to do as a student because, you walk down College Avenue or you go into Livingston food court and you see all these tables being run. It probably is students, all of them, but I never put that together for whatever reason. I was just like, oh, okay, people trying to
Yeah.
sell us stuff or whatever. But then to be on the other side of it was so cool. And it was really rewarding to kind of give students a different idea about what college entails. And I think for someone like me, you picture college being this like movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like that's how I envisioned it.
Right.
And then I kind of got my reality check and I'm like, oh, okay, it's not all about this. There are other things out there. And if I don't know exactly what I want to do when I graduate, that's okay. Like, I'm gonna figure it out during my experiences, whether it's running a table for Are You Sure, or I'm at the comm school studying and I see a group of people I recognize, like maybe I should approach them and network. And I really came out of my shell. I've always been sociable, but in the realm of like professionalism and, finding my path that way, I really took advantage and kind of made myself more useful than I was probably the first 3 years of school. And there along the way, I met so many people at Rutgers who gave me opportunities. I think I spoke about that internship I had in the city. That was because I knew somebody at school who was in the comm school, and they were just coming out of the internship and they were looking for someone. So it's really Rutgers is such a great place to kind of get to know your peers, because knowing people really can be everything. You can learn so much just by talking and networking, and just have great insight. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so then come graduation, I I think I had a different internship with a startup company, which I know I kind of spoke to you about right in the beginning of our call. I got to see what it was like to kind of work for a startup, which was really, really cool. They were into AI and logistics. So I worked with a ton of developers, and there was one marketing girl and two interns. They hired me and another girl. And we were kind of responsible for building the brand. They had a brand person and they did the website and the logos, and we kind of just assisted with getting the company out onto social media platforms and building them a content calendar, which was really cool, a cool experience to have. But luckily, I was in my internship and I was also applying to full-time roles. And that's when a small agency invited me for an interview, and they weirdly enough were in Somerset, right down Easton Avenue. I was like, okay, this feels like it's meant to be. And it was. I really enjoyed my time there. They were like a pretty small agency, but they had a lot of big clients. So they had like Dr. Scholl's was a client, Fujifilm. I think I was actually brought on to help them assist with a Fujifilm website complete restoration. So part of my job at the agency, there was a lot to do. I definitely had a big job description because I was kind of just a specialist. One main facet of the job was working in the back end of websites, which I kind of explained to you shortly. I do that now. And it was one part of the job I really, really enjoyed. So upon leaving that job, or I'm sorry, I actually got laid off from the job due to COVID. I think it was just
Yeah.
everything, the economy, and I was the last on the list. I was an entry level position, but I luckily kept my job through COVID, was there for 3 great years. But unfortunately, they had to let me go. I understood. I was definitely a little bummed, but I think I needed the push regardless. Because I felt like I was almost like too comfortable there and I didn't see myself really growing. I was like, okay, you have a job, do your job well, and just do it. I was just cruising,
Yeah.
which I think is totally fine. But upon leaving the company, I felt like I was able to, like, I had to kind of reevaluate, or I felt I had to reevaluate, like, okay, is this what I want to be doing? I had to kind of hone in on my skills and realize, okay, what is it you like about marketing? Because I think I started to question if it was for me, just given my one experience at that time, my true full-time experience. So I said to myself, okay, why don't you really liked the back end work, why don't you go for coding and do a boot camp? So
Oh,
me being me, I'm just like, I do sit on ideas for a while. I'm not too impulsive, but I was like, okay, yeah, on to the next. Like I'm ready to go back to school. I felt like ready. And I was, and I did the program. I did a Rutgers coding boot camp. It was a full stack, 3 month full-time program. And it was great. I passed. I got my cert. But going to find jobs was so difficult. I found myself in this hole and I was not completely confident in all the material we learned over 3 months. It was so much. And I was like, I don't think I can confidently go into even an interview and fake this till I make it because
Yeah.
that's a pretty technical skill to have. Um, so I was pretty bummed about not diving into the coding world. But now I have to look at that experience as, okay, how can I leverage that? How can I take that into my next role? So I did. I really reevaluated my skills. What did you learn in boot camp? Maybe what did you learn at your internships? How can we make this work? Because then I felt really stuck. I'm like, okay, I have this boot camp, I have my comm degree. Where am I going? Like I felt almost confused again. So then I started connecting to peers that I went to Rutgers with. I reached out to people. I just would pick their brains. What do you do for work? What do you do for work?
Mm.
Here are my skills. What do you think I can do? It's a little chaotic maybe to
Yeah.
approach things that way, but these were like friends who I had made over the years. So I felt comfortable telling them that. And they were so helpful. One girl actually said, I do product management and you should maybe interview for these positions. They work as a middleman between the client and the developers, and you have experience with both. And that's when I started like thinking back to all my experience. Okay, I worked for the startup. I was around developers. I get the language. I did the whole boot camp. This would really apply to me. So long story long, I applied for a bunch of positions. I wasn't getting the product management just because of experience. They were looking for people with product management experience. I never understand how you get a job with experience without experience. But lo and behold, I finally switched gears. I said, okay, let me consider contracting just because you're not binded to a 40-hour work week if your contract allows that, which was cool to me. I was like, oh, I could get some flexibility
Yep.
and work on my mental health and, have build a strong routine. It's not just 9 to 5 roles that I have to really, kind of submit to.
Yeah.
And that's when I started working with a recruiter all through LinkedIn, and she helped me find no, actually, I found the job posting for this job. But then she came in contact and she was really helpful. And that's when she says, oh,
Mm.
this role is actually for Merck in New Jersey. And I said, Merck? Like I grew up my whole life in Kenilworth looking at Merck. I'm like, what? I knew it was pharmaceutical, but I'm like, what is this? It looks like Disneyland for adults. So I was able to kind of confidently land the interview. They offered me a job. And now I'm in contract with them for the next like 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, it's really awesome. I'm doing back end work, I'm doing email building, a lot of things that I've done in my whole experience as interns or in my last role. Everything kind of came together and worked out, which maybe isn't always the case or seems like that will be the case, but really just following your passion, I guess, in a way, or honing in on your skills and finding what you like, I think can be really important to your journey and how, you might find a job.
Absolutely. I really like your journey because it goes to like through all the struggles you came out high. It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah, I like that. No, it was definitely, it feels that way in hindsight, looking back too. But the struggles of college itself are so real,
Yeah.
which I think is something I'm so passionate about because we don't talk about that. We just talk about the schooling or the classes and like, are you showing up to every class? Are you getting this grade? Are you doing this exam? Like, it's really crazy how it just falls on you and you kind of have to just figure it out.
Yeah. That's true. Learning to figure it out can be a
Mhm.
pretty intensive task.
Yeah, nobody told me it was going to be that hard.
I want to bring the next question in as to like what is the importance of networking in your field of work?
So it's very important, I would say. There's a lot of benefits to it. I would say, which I kind of touched on earlier, just knowing maybe something someone does for work can help inspire you in your own work. So you might hear someone talk about a new um, platform that they're running social media through and they're using to organize and create content calendars. And they might just say it in passing, and you're like, oh, what is that? And
Yeah.
then you ask them about it, and they give you this brand new system, and you bring it to
Mm.
your employer and you say, hey, I just learned about this content creation calendar called Agora Pulse. We should look into it. And then maybe your employer goes, oh, wow, thanks, Jenna. That was great, a great suggestion. We're going to use this going forward. True story. So
Wow.
things like that can kind of help you out in your own work. So like that was very specific to what I do in marketing. But I think there's just so much opportunity to
Mm.
have in a conversation. It really can go anywhere. You could be surprised. Someone's your coworker. Like someone walked into my brewery and I said, oh, how's your day? Where are you coming from? Work. Where do you work? You coming far? Merck. I was like, wait, I just got hired for Merck. So like just weird coincidences can happen if you're willing and open to it. That was also a true story, by the way.
Wow.
But,
I am loving your stories.
I'm very animated, so I apologize if this is not
Oh no, it's perfect. I I,
interview
I
formal.
love it. I love it.
Yeah, so there's so many benefits. You can just meet the right person. I've done it before. I did you ever go to Stuff Your Face?
Yes.
I used to work there as well. I
Oh
clearly
wow.
love the service industry, but I worked there and I had been looking for, oh, my internship in the city that I briefly talked about had ended, and I was looking for a second job, I guess, because I was at Stuff Your Face, but or maybe I was quitting Stuff Your Face. Regardless, I was looking for a job. And this guy comes in and we start chit-chatting, and I tell him I'm into tech. Like I always was pretty you know, tech tech related and like I liked things like that. Hence the coding I've done later on in life. That was always an interest of mine. And that's kind of where I started honing in at that time on things I liked. I wanted to find my passion. I wanted to find what could align in my career with my interests. So I tell him that I like tech. And he goes, I am the head at telecommunications network in at Rutgers. Like you should apply for my internship. So I'm like, yeah, send me your information. So I worked at Rutgers Telecommunications as an intern, and I was like crawling under desks and recording jack port numbers. And it was like
Great.
so not what I'm not an IT person, but that was kind of my role.
Yep.
Um, so that was just a cool way of getting an experience by literally just seating this man to eat his lunch at Stuff Your Face. But had I not said anything, I would not never have gotten that job. I would have never known that was an option for me. So it's just funny what you can kind of discover and find out just by talking to people.
That's
Um, so that's my advice.
yeah, I mean, I love your little networking stories. Or, I mean, it felt like I was there in the room.
Oh,
I was
good.
at Stuff Your Face with the Telecommunications. I was like, oh, you got the job.
It's
I
so
mean,
funny.
yeah, but it's like, it does really point to like the importance of networking as to like, you never know what's out there. So I want to bring the next segment as to like what advice would you give to students who are probably struggling in maybe getting a job or in a class or just general advice?
Yeah. Ooh, that's tough. I would say I feel like everybody might say something like just keep going or like you're almost there because that's what people would tell me and I'm like, "Really? I'm almost there. This feels like the longest 8-week semester of my life or however long, 12-week semester of my life." Um, I think just giving yourself grace too is really important. there's a lot going on at school. You're juggling 5 different classes. They're probably in all different subjects. Um, you might have a social life that you're trying to maintain, and that can be a lot of pressure in itself, especially somewhere at college. I think a lot of people are peer pressured.
Yeah.
Um, and you kind of have this social image to uphold, or you feel like you do. But I guess my advice would be just remember that this is your experience and
Mm.
it's what you make it, or you can let other people make the experience for you, but then you're going to lose your own track and fall off track. So if you just kind of put yourself first and remember that this is your education, this is your degree, this is your time at Rutgers, maybe you'll look at it a little bit differently and treat it a little bit differently. Yeah,
That makes perfect sense as to like be the driver of your own car, be the
right.
owner of your own life,
Exactly.
and give yourself some ease and grace. Well, that sums up my questions. I would like to
Okay.
thank you for your time and thank you very much for this interview.
Of course.